Part 3, Exodus. This is Israel's infancy. And as you're reading Exodus, you can't help but appreciate the fact that Israel is a very immature people. This, of course, starts off with the story of Moses in the bulrushes, and we have him grow up, low raised high, and raised in the palace. That theme comes up, and low raised high, of course, with Moses being an example after Joseph. But what's really remarkable is when God sends Moses to free his people after 400 years of slavery, and he sends it in a big way. He gives Moses a miraculous call. He gives Moses 3 miracles to perform before Pharaoh. He gives Moses 10 plagues, miraculous plagues that are witnessed by the masses. And they cross the Red Sea with water, walls of water on their right and their left. Unbelievable, this story. Just remarkable. And the Israelites get a front row seat. And when they're on the other side of the Red Sea, after leaving slavery in the most amazing, miraculous, mysterious way, they complain. And as a reader, you're struck. How can they complain? Just a paragraph ago, they were watching a miracle of God that will be shared for the ages. How can they complain? And then what does God do when they complain? You expect God to straighten them out, give them time out, smack them, do something. But he gives them what they ask for. It is absolutely incredibly striking that God has such patience with a group of children, because that's the way they behave. Infants. They are infants, morally, spiritually, and so immature. That's what strikes you in this story. The parent has given, and also Moses, God as parent and Moses as parent, has given great self-sacrifice, incredible patience, like a parent would for an infant. And these infants, as I said, they have demands after demands. They complain. They're completely self-centered. And these are the Israelites. In fact, this is where they are named Israelites. They are, like an infant, named for the first time in Exodus, called the Israelites, and they are a people that strike you as immature and unworthy. Even though they are the favored people of God, you are struck by how unworthy they are. Israel is referred to in this section too as God's firstborn son. And that is your first indication in Scripture that God may have a second son. More about that later, but that is an important thing to consider. That passage is in Exodus 4:22 during the Passover section in Exodus. God's provision in the desert. Again, an infant, though they may be mobile, though they may be verbal, they are still dependent on their parent. And this is true of the Israelites. They are wandering in the desert, and they are completely dependent on God and their leader Moses to lead them and also to provide for them. So when they are thirsty and they complain that they would have been better off in Egypt, it would have been better if they had not been saved from slavery. Unbelievable statements that they're making, so self-centered. But God gives them water. And when they complain that they are hungry and that they would have been better off if they had stayed in Egypt, God gives them food. Not just food, but miraculous, twice a day food from heaven every single day that they're in the wilderness. It's astounding. But it grows familiar, and they complain, and they want meat. And how does God respond to their demands? He gives them meat. This is an amazing section of the Bible where God gives Israel what they ask for, even when it seems their attitude is very self-centered and wrong. And yet again, it reminds you of an infant. They're really too young to understand what they're doing or asking for. They don't understand what they're doing necessarily is rude or inappropriate, and yet parents still love them and care for them and teach them. And so God is teaching his people in this section that he is a provider and a protector, and that he loves them even when life is hard. Another important part of Exodus is, of course, the covenant. When we think about Exodus as a book, we tend to think of Moses, the burning bush, and the Ten Commandments. And as Moses is up on the hill, or the mountain, I should say, Mount Sinai, and receives the Ten Commandments, as he's coming down after being up on the top of the mountain talking to God face to face, he comes down, and what does he find? He finds the infantile Israelites worshiping a golden calf. And in anger, he throws the tablets down, and they're shattered, depicting the message that God's people have broken the covenant even before it was laid before them. And as sad and devastating as that is, God does not give up on his people. He is faithful to his part of the covenant, and he continues to love and care for Israel as his own child. That's the message of Exodus, and that is the stage that Israel is in as they show themselves in their infancy. The next section, part 4, will take us into childhood. So I look forward to talking to you about that.